Everything in life is story. Story is how we share ideas, politics, vision, fantasies, experiences, even our hopes and dreams. The Gibson Gazette is a podcast show devoted to story, those we consume, those we tell ourselves, and those told to us. Welcome. How are you doing, AMC?
Hey, hello. I'm doing well. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. Trying to keep my head above water. You know the deal. You know.
For our newcomers, I am L. Michael Gibson, or LMG, and this is my co-host, Anne Marie Collymore, or AMC. And welcome to the Gibson Gazette. So let's just jump right in. What stories have you been consuming over the last 2 weeks that you want our audiences to know about, and that we're not going to go too deep about today, but you just want to make sure we touched on?
There's so many, but for some reason this one stuck in my head because I was like, this is kind of, I don't know, comedic in a weird way. But so I clicked a link on Rolling Stone, and there was an article about Dave Chappelle, our good friend Dave Chappelle. Now, yeah, eyebrows raised exactly. The title of this article was Dave Chappelle's latest achievement: helping kill an affordable housing development plan. How I Okay, so I clicked the article, and wouldn't you know, it was not clickbait, because really that's what I thought it was. So apparently, Dave threatened to pull out all of his business ventures from his hometown. So he's from Yellow Springs, Ohio. If the plans for this particular development for a housing, affordable housing, wasn't squashed. Doesn't it sound so?
Well, before you go on, that I posted the same story. It was
Oh,
this
did you?
headline around the world,
Uh-huh.
and there was video of Dave at the council meeting,
Right.
essentially threatening, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a couple of my followers did some deeper investigation and found
Ooh.
that the deal might have been shisty, right, and that they might be using
Ah.
Dave Chappelle's as an excuse. So, what Chappelle's camp is saying is that, and he hasn't released a formal statement, but so this is coming through like surrogates.
Right.
So are saying that um, the deal, it wasn't the issue as affordable housing. The issue was that it wasn't as affordable as they were making out, that the construction wasn't the quality, or wasn't what they were
Mm,
um,
mhm.
advocating for, um, and that the overall development plan really was not going to benefit those most in need the way that it was being portrayed. And so, because
Okay,
it
now
wasn't
that
what,
makes sense.
so yeah, so because it wasn't what, um, and again, we haven't heard from the other parties. Like, we've only heard kind of like this original story that blames Dave Chappelle for killing this deal, and making it so that only because it would sound like a NIMBY story, right? Like it's on a not in my backyard story, and that Dave
Right.
was kind of like being this rich Scrooge
Yes,
McDuck kind of situation,
bougie.
right? Right,
Exactly.
which is
Exactly.
weird given Dave's supposed politics around
Mm,
these issues. And now some people was like, oh, well, this isn't really a black issue because this town. Well, actually, the town, from my understanding from people who live there, is
mhm.
not entirely white. It does have some diversity, and it's near Dayton, Ohio, which is a very
Right.
black city. So there
Mhm.
would have been some black benefits for this affordable housing deal going through. That said, it doesn't seem like everything we were told up front in the initial stories might be what it is. So I think this might be a hold on to your hats, folks. Let's get more information. I'm not a Dave Chappelle fan anymore. I was for years. I, as a LGBTQ plus individual and
Mhm.
advocate, his last few specials rubbed me definitely the wrong way. I was definitely
Right.
not a fan of The Closer. I've written about that, about my thoughts on The Closer. So, I Not gonna lie, I was biased against Dave and wanted to believe the story. And essentially, my caption to the post was, "We told you he was trash."
Oh, shame. Oh, you
but
let it rip.
yeah, but it might not. He might still be trash, but he's just not as NIMBY trash. Like he's not trash on particularly maybe this issue. So I think we
Right,
have something.
right.
I think in the next day or two, or maybe by the time this podcast hits your door, we'll have gotten more information and cleaned
I
up
hope
that
so.
particular issue.
Because that was, yeah, I was gonna end with that because I'm like, this just, it sounds a bit too good to, you know what I mean? Like, the story came out and I'm reading and I'm like, this is very one sided. That was one. But on the other hand, I was like, okay, but this happened at a specific place. And I'm sure, well, you told me that there's video about it, but I did not see the video. So I didn't see the link that you had posted. But just reading about it, I said, I know this man has, he thinks a certain way and he has a certain air and thing about him, but I don't think he's that dude. I'm hoping he's not that dude, right? So I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. But it's a story that I wanted to continue following because I wanted to hear what else was going to come out about this because this can't just be it, right? So as you
Hmm.
stated, yeah, there's a lot more behind there. I definitely, I'm going to keep my eye on this because I want to hear who has to say what as we proceed with this thing here.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of folks, progressives like myself, who already are predisposed to not like Dave, and kind of had saw blood in the water, um,
Hmm.
and attacked right at the first sign that and there did seem to be evidence that because he did. I mean, on its face, what they're saying is not true, right? He did
Hmm.
threaten to pull his business, but some of the resources. I mean, my understanding from kind of the follow up information that I received was that some of the resources that are actually paying for this deal
Hmm.
come through like a community development corporation or something that he had made investments in. So this is part of his money that's being used to pay for this deal. So he does get to have a say in how his money is being used, but it wasn't an.
Of course.
It doesn't seem to be the NIMBY story that we thought it was. But
Right.
again,
Right.
we'll keep abreast. I mean, and I also think that there's like Dave moving to a small, predominantly white town in Ohio that's conservative, that's kind of Trump land, as he himself has talked about,
Hmm.
does raise, it makes you think automatically, oh, he's probably been influenced. And we've seen some of that influence on his comedy already, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
By the place that he's chosen to live and raise his family, which is not like one of the progressive enclaves in the country. So I think that there was enough bias to both conscious and unconscious there to make folks want to like jump on his stories. But so we'll see how it all shakes out.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. What do you
as
have on
for
tap?
myself, I'm enjoying the return of my baby. If I had remembered, I would have brought my baby to the camera. My baby Grogu, better known as
Oh
Baby Yoda.
gosh.
Yes, I
You and
have
my
an
son could
animal.
hang.
I have an animatronic Grogu. I do. I
No
bought
way.
one. I bought it when it was still in being developed. I was a pre early investor. I wanted my animatronic Grogu.
Oh my
So yeah,
god.
I love my baby Yoda. But anyway,
He's
for
so
those who are not
cute.
who may not know what the hell I'm talking about, Disney Plus streamer has two shows that now star Grogu, and one is The Mandalorian, and the other is the Book of Boba Fett, and Boba Fett, and
But
and that second show, Grogu appears in the last two episodes along with his guardian, the Mandalorian. And they literally rescued that show. So the show started very slow. It's a slow burn. It's much
oh
more of a
man,
western than a space opera. Um,
lost me.
you know, and these two characters that are very beloved for their own show helped to rescue the Book of Boba Fett because that it was feeling aimless in direction. Again, more committed to the Western genre than the space opera motifs of the Star Wars franchise. It wasn't always clear what the purpose of the show was. Starring this cult following character, there was like a minor character who wasn't particularly impactful or meaningful to me in the franchise, but for some reason, lots of fanboys and girls kind of clung to. And still, I gave the show a shot because I really love The Mandalorian, and it stars Ming Na Wen, who was made famous through Marvel's Agents of Shield. She's underutilized in the series through a character that feels a bit too reminiscent of her character on Shield, which makes me
Oh.
worry a little bit about her being typecast in the future as kind of like this Asian woman fighter person who's me mugs her way through every scene. But anyway, the last two episodes start both my baby and the Mandalorian, and so all is right with the world. And the second to the last episodes also showed us Mark Hamill, who's Luke Skywalker,
Mhm.
but Luke Skywalker when he was the same age he was in the original Star Wars trilogy some, over 35 years ago, 40 years ago, um, with some extended scenes. Like these weren't like a hologram or something like that. These were like long scenes with Grogu, thanks to CGI. And it was both creepy and kick ass, and made me wonder about the future of acting in CGI because they literally recreated who Luke Skywalker was, gave him an entirely different script that he had never spoken before,
Yeah.
and it looked real, like it was seamless. You could not tell him from anything else in the scene. So
Nice.
nice and creepy, right? Like,
Yeah, very much so, for sure.
it's just a little creepy.
They like to
Overall, the
take
last two episodes provided the series a much needed kick in the pants and made the whole series as worth watching.
I'm a
So
little oh, okay, so it is worthwhile because now I'm
it
disappointed.
is
First, you
worth
started with the
watching.
Western.
Yeah,
Already I'm not a Western person, but I'm big on the whole Star Wars, background and Boba Fett and whatnot. So I started The Mandalorian. I'm still not finished yet, and I love it, but it got me from the beginning. It was a little slow at the beginning, but then it picked up for me. If this is like a
mhm.
Western and it's slow, that's a double whammy for me. So I can't wait till like the last two episodes for it to start popping.
Yeah, they really lean into the Western aspects of it, like the last three or so episodes. If it feels more like Star Wars in the earlier episodes, but it starts really slow. It's about,
Mm.
particularly if you're not really familiar with this character, and don't like have warm and fuzzy feelings about it. I came into it kind of like I vaguely remember who Boba Fett was.
Mhm,
Vaguely, I'm not sure if I care about this character. Like, make me care
mhm.
about this character, but I felt that way about the Mandalorian too, right? Like, I was like, I don't know who this character is. Make me love
Yeah,
him.
but he was
Um,
badass from jump.
oh, excuse me. And figured out how to make it seem like he I mean, his acting. Like the actor has to Pedro has to act behind this mask, and we don't get to see any facial expressions or anything, and he makes it work.
He
Like
does,
you
yeah.
get to feeling, you get the sincerity, you get who this character is without ever seeing his face, which is crazy. But he
Mhm,
pulls that
mhm.
acting feat off. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the Mandalorian. And I give Boba Fett B minus C plus.
Will you watch the second season if it comes through? If there is one, I don't know if there will
If
be one, but
if my baby gonna be back, yeah,
it's not all about your baby,
it's all
okay?
it's all about my baby. And they got into it. There's like the people are watching for this baby. They're not watching for this other stuff that's going on. Give me the baby.
Oh
So,
gosh. All right,
so
all right. We'll
just
see.
give us a reminder. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share on whatever platform you're listening to or watching us on. Also, comment or review where possible so that we can climb the charts of the various platform algorithms this show is on. And now
Yes.
we're going to go to our next segment, Loving It. So,
Yeah.
what are you
Want to know what I'm
loving?
loving? What am I loving? You know what? I'm really curious to know why no one is speaking about blind spotting. Did everybody chat about it the first season and it just went over my head? I don't know, but I am in love with blind spotting. I love the show. Um, I'm gonna give a little backstory. This is the short form, of course, y'all. So this TV show is a spinoff from the original movie that came out in 2018. 2018, if I'm correct. And it was written and produced by writer, actor, and showrunner Rafael Cesal and Tony and Grammy Award winning actor David Diggs, who we know as Mr. Blackish, Rainbow's brother, Johan, and as Marquis de Lafayette. Okay, don't think me on my French; it's kind of rusty. And Thomas Jefferson in Hamilton. So the movie now was about a parolee, and he had 3 days left on his sentence. And he witnessed a police shooting that kind of comes in between him and his lifelong friendship. So it's two best friends, Miles and Colin. So it's based in Oakland area, and it addresses issues of police violence, gentrification, and racism. So the television show now it picks up 6 months after the film, and it's a comedy drama, and it follows the life of Ashley Rose, who's portrayed by Grammy and Emmy Award winner Jasmine Cephas Jones, who just um, with her father, I think it was last at the Emmys.
Quincy Jones? You mean Quincy Jones' daughter?
um, no, Jazz. He was on what's that show? It'll come to me because I see his face. Was it This Is Us? Maybe
Sterling
This Is Us.
Washington?
No, 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 no,
Sterling
not
Washington is
Sterling.
on This
Not,
Is Us.
no, no, not Sterling. It'll come
Oh, I
back
know
to me.
you're talking about he no Sterling's dad, Ron, or I think
Yes,
it's Ron
yes,
Cephas Jones.
that's
Yes,
right.
his daughter.
So
Okay.
that's right, his daughter. So she was also in Hamilton too. So excuse me, she played Peggy Schuler and Maria Reynolds. So she was in the original movie as well, and now this one is navigating her life. So it's showing her perspective after her partner Miles is unexpectedly incarcerated. So what I love about the show is that it's so artsy. It's not just your typical written, produced, and performed show. There are many aspects to it. Um, it's very witty. It's quick. It's fun. I love that. And the way some of the shots are presented, I really dig it. Like for instance, with there's a scene with two friends who sat down to play a game of chess, and then there's a dialogue that's going on, but you can't see anything. You just see that they're about to enjoy a game of chess. During the shot, Ashley Rose is reciting a poem, and she's dipping and her tonality of a poetry slam, and she's going at it, and she's discussing the challenges of being Miles' girlfriend on the outside, living with his mother, and his mother is Helen Hunt, and I love Helen Hunt. Um, and they have a pretty good cast. Excuse me, guys. So she's also talking about how she's trying to live her life as a single mom while she's going through it and trying to hold everything together. So it's a pull and a push. And that's what you see the two friends actually start popping and locking and doing this whole performance, not just like, breakdancing, but a full dance routine and performance is going on while the poetry slam is in the background. It's so dope. It is so dope. I know my description is not even like it's not doing any justice at all, but it's really mesmerizing to watch. I loved it. And the episode titles are I love them. They're fun. The last one I saw was Beaches Be Trippin'. And
Okay.
it was because the four of them that live in the house, young ladies that live in the house, actually went to a beach to get high on mushrooms. And it was this whole seance thing where they had to talk about themselves and what they're going through. And it was, again, poetry, getting deep down into what they're going through. And they took the mushrooms, they started tripping out, and it was just this whole artsy, crazy sequence. It was dope. It was crazy. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So it's
I
on
can
Stars.
tell. So it's on
I
Stars.
just
On what night does it come on?
That's a good question because I'm catching what's it called? The
Catching up?
reruns.
Mm.
Yeah, the reruns are coming on. So whenever I see it playing, I just catch up and I watch it. So I am gonna check and see what night it comes on so that I can actually stay up to date. But oh my god, it's really worth sitting down and getting into. Honest to God, it really is. I'm so surprised hardly anybody's speaking about it.
Yeah, so I'm familiar with the movie, obviously. With I mean, the critic, it was a critical darling the year it came out.
Hmm.
Um, Less so with the show. I know when it came out because I think NPR Pop Culture Happy Hour might have done this thing on it and spoke
You
about
did,
it.
yeah. Hmm.
And I'm a big fan of that particular critics show. But yeah, I've never, I lived in Oakland. I lived in downtown Oakland for a year. So, I have mixed feelings about that part of the world. I lasted in California 1 year and literally ran out of there.
Oh wow.
It just wasn't for me. Though I have really wonderful friends who still live there and enjoy the Bay Area. But
Mm.
yeah, so I don't know. I haven't. There are certain things like "Sorry to Bother You." I loved that kind of
Mhm.
captures the sensibility of the Oakland, and Train Spotting. The movie kind
Yeah,
of captured a little
transpotting.
bit similar vibe, or Blind Spotting, excuse me. Captured a similar vibe of the area. But yeah, I hadn't checked this show out. Maybe because you said I should, I'll give it a
I think you
shot.
would like it. I honestly
Um,
keep your mind out of the Oakland context, excuse me, and just watch it for what it is and what's going on with the characters and how they're expressing themselves. And I think you'd like it. Just on the creativity tip, it's really dope to watch. It's really, really cool.
all right.
I think you'd
Well,
enjoy it.
um, on a different note, you froze for a minute there, so I'm not sure, at least on my end. But then it cleaned up and you caught back up with yourself. So hopefully that was just wasn't a glitch that the cameras caught. Chris can let us know, and he can edit this part out where I
Of
explain that
course.
to you. Um, Now for me, my loving it is also a series, and it's also in its second season,
Hmm.
and it is season 2 of Euphoria. Sam Levinson's writing and direction has only been equaled by his amazing cast of actors led by Zendaya as Rue Bennett. It also stars Hunter Schafer as Jules, a transgender teen who has a complicated friendship slash love relationship with Zendaya, or Rue. For those unfamiliar with the series, it airs on HBO Max. Euphoria follows a group of high school students as they navigate love and friendship, and in a world of drugs, lots and lots of drugs, sex,
So I
lots of
hear.
sex,
Hmm.
lots of peen everywhere, peen, on camera peen, trauma, and social media.
Mm.
The series is executive produced by Drake, along with
Yeah.
his manager, Future the Prince. The ensemble cast includes the actor Angus Cloud, who is so sexy as Fez. Eric Dane, who's also sexy. People may remember Eric Dane on Grey's Anatomy. He was on there for about a decade as the other Dreamy,
Yeah. Oh,
or Meg
yes.
Dreamy, the second Meg Dreamy. Nika King, Storm Reed, Algie Smith, and Sydney Sweeney. All of those are rising star names who've been in really big projects over the last decade. Euphoria is an American adaptation of an Israeli show of the same name, and all episodes are written by Sam Levinson, who some people may remember for Assassination Nation was another project of his. He serves as the executive director as well. So the series is produced in partnership with A24, which is responsible for such gems as Moonlight, Zola, Hereditary, Ladybird, and
Mm.
Uncut Gems. And as a TV series, Euphoria shares some of those films' unflinching honesty, bold and often gritty aesthetics, and indie film sensibilities. The show's secret sauce has been the collaborative relationship between Levinson and his muse Zendaya. If
Mm.
last season's edge in showing the toxic power dynamics of relationships between adults and teens and teens was hot and too hot to handle, this new season decided to kick it up several notches by delivering what essentially has become a series of interconnected one act plays, each spotlighting a different character and a toxic situation they've created for themselves to trap themselves in kind of a personal nightmare. The
Mm.
foremost pronounced of this season was a backstory of Ash. Ash is
Mm.
a middle school age drug dealer who's very handy with a baseball bat. He is
Okay.
not for play. He is not for play
Right.
play.
Apparently so.
The lust and obsession triangle features the villainous Nate, who is vying for a second or is it a third chance with his ex girlfriend Maddie, while also regularly betting her best friend Cassie.
Oh, this is messy AF.
Um,
Wow.
there's a tour de force performance by Eric Dane, who has his gay teen backstory as Nate's tormented and tormentor father, Cal, who
Mm.
last season was betting the trans teen Jules, and this season has been revealed to be a tortured closet case mired in self hate. He's
Oh
also a
boy.
married man with a family, very kind of suburban on the outside, spicy on the inside. Eric Dane's performance was already receiving Emmy talk when Zendaya said, "Hold my beer," and followed
Uh-oh.
that episode immediately up with one that included an operatic range of emotions as a chemically dependent teenager experiencing both severe withdrawal and the knowledge that her mother flushed $10,000 worth of opioids in the toilet that belonged to a neighborhood drug dealer awaiting the proceeds from those drug sales. So, if the
Oh.
15-minute intervention gone wrong by her mother, delivered by a phenom of an actress, Nika King, and her baby sister, emotionally played by Storm Reed, the episode includes a terrifying 20-minute police chase of Rue. Now, Zendaya's black, light skinned black, but she's still black.
She's
Anytime the
black.
police chasing any black people, it's terrifying. Um, and
They're
that
not looking for
scene,
color range, you know. Blackity
no,
black is blackity black.
no, and they are shooting at her. They are chasing her. They go through multiple neighborhoods and back alleys. It's you're holding your breath the whole time. And
Okay,
then, if
now I
that
gotta
wasn't
watch
enough,
it.
the episode also has a huge reveal that was dwarfed by everything else in the episode, and Rue trying to have to escape from being sex trafficked by the dealer she's indebted to, all in one episode. Right? Like, this is one
This
episode.
is stressful. I'm not even watching it, and this is stressful. Are
so
you
Zend-
kidding me?
so Zendaya already has one Emmy, right? She won. She was the youngest woman to ever
Yes.
win Best Actress in the Best Actress category for an Emmy. But episode 5 all but guarantees her a nomination, if not a win. Um,
Mm.
and while the series this season has been polarizing for some critics, fans have already made season 2 the most watched on the HBO Max platform. So that brought up the Teen Drug Use Prevention Organization, DARE. I don't know if you remember DARE from back in the 80s.
Of
That's the last time I actually
course.
heard of DARE. I actually didn't know DARE was still a thing. I thought DARE had
It's been a
wrapped
minute.
up
Hmm.
its t-shirts and its slogans and had gone away, because I haven't seen or heard from DARE until this, right? So they came out against the show as
Yeah.
glamorizing and normalizing teenage drug use and by making it appear a typical part of teenage life. Now, while Euphoria wasn't my experience with drug use in the black community among teenagers at my magnet high school and my Dodge school that I went to in Germany, college was different. College was a different story. College looked like Euphoria, but it absolutely was my baby sister's experience in white suburbia in Minnesota. Which
Hmm.
begs the question, and there's like a huge age difference between me and my sister. Like, I'm 47. My baby sister was born like 13 or 14 years after I was. So we had a totally different experience. I was raised in Chicago. She was raised in the suburbs of Minnesota with white folks, and her story is very Euphoria,
Hmm.
which begs the question: should we be telling stories about how we want teenage life in America to be, essentially kind of like a retention message in social marketing, where we highlight the good of teenagers and how we want them to aspire to be, or should we be
Hmm.
telling stories about how teenage life actually is, even if it includes quite a bit of sex, drugs, violence? What do you think, AMC?
Yes. Yes to the
Which
latter.
one?
All of it. I don't the latter, the latter. I want stories of how teenage life actually is. Who the hell wants it glossed over? I don't want the Hollywood version. If my kid or if anybody else needs to sit down and watch a show that's depicting teenage life, why would I want it to be all through a rose colored glasses kind of perspective? That's not what I want to see. I want to hear and see what these kids are doing. And from what I'm hearing, I'm terrified for my kid when he gets older. I don't know what more I can do. I'm gonna have to call. Maybe I'll have to drag out Dare again at that point and ask them, "Yo, what do I do?" Because it's terrifying when I see these kids now and what they're talking about and what they're doing. They know more about what to do with a vibrator than some of us do. Like it's not a game. These kids are on it. They are on it. Why are we going to hide this shit when it's happening? It's happening right in front of them. And they will come back and tell you themselves, nah, that's not what's going on. Like that, what is that? You know, you're glossing over everything that's going on in my life right now. When it really started to hit me about teenage life and what teenagers are going through is when I used to see on the news, and I would say maybe for the past 10 years, when kids were saying, I'm stressed out. I'm sorry. When I was going to school, I was not stressed out. I was trying to figure out when's track practice? When am I going to play my next dodgeball game? When am I going to, you know what I mean? There was always something. We had extracurricular activities. We were going at it. These kids are stressed out and need yoga after class. So that should tell you things ain't all pretty. Let's be real. We need to be real about these things. So bring it on. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt us as parents. It's gonna hurt us as uncles and aunties to see the real deal. But it is the real deal. Sex, drugs, violence, all of it. That synopsis that you gave of the show just gave me a heart attack. Like I'm suddenly fuck. I want to watch it, but I'm terrified. I am terrified. And as you gave the synopsis, it made complete sense to me when I saw a lot of tweets with people saying, "Oh my god, Euphoria looking to like kill me tonight." Euphoria is like everybody was freaking out. And now I clearly understand why. Because this is nuts. This is nuts. I'm going to be like clenching my pearls for a minute after that show. I got to watch this now. You know,
I
for how
would
long it's been in my queue? Oh my gosh.
Well, I will tell people this. I mean, because I did have some people reach out to me and ask me that they have to watch all of season one to go to season two, and it's like in order to, season one laid the foundation so that season two could just run free. I mean, because it's using a lot of indie film techniques. It's not
Hmm.
linear always in its storytelling. It's using lots of different camera angles and colors and art direction that's quirky and wild, in order to depict the life of the people. And what's one of the criticisms of the show, that it might be more style over substance. um,
Mm.
and and I don't know, like for me, as maybe I'm in love with the style. So but I think that if you want, you can watch the last episode, episode
No,
5, which
no.
is the one I
I can't do
described,
that.
all by itself, just to get a taste, right? Like to get a taste of the level. I mean, in episode 5 makes it very clear they're not glamorizing drug use. She's
Hmm.
going through withdrawal, and she is shaking, she's crying, she's having wild mood swings. Why? I mean, she goes from angry and violent to weeping and balls in the corner within minutes of each other, right? Like it's not pretty.
Hmm.
She tears up her home. I mean, it's not, and she's like a frail little tiny thing. Zendaya is like what, 100 pounds
Yeah,
wet,
she's really tiny. You're right.
right?
Hmm.
But she managed to do a great deal of violence with that little body. So yeah, I don't get the glamorization or normaliz. I mean, the normalization part. My baby sister, um, who has had her own struggles with things that Euphoria touches on. Uh, the show. I mean, she couldn't go to house parties in suburban Minnesota because so many times that she would go to the house party and the white suburban kids would pull out drugs, and
Hmm.
like the party would really be a drug party. And this was in the early aughts, right? Because there's like this huge age gap between me and my sister, who's now in her 30s. So it's not like this is new. Gabrielle Union wrote about some of this kind of stuff in her memoirs as well, about her experiences in white suburbia. This idea that these kids who have means, and have
Hmm.
the complexion for the protection are not also engaged in sex and violence and drug use is, not true. like,
Right.
and
Exactly.
we had our
Exactly.
own kind of taste of this when back in the 90s for black film, with Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society.
Yeah.
And, there was a little bit of an outcry of why are we always only showing our teenagers doing this one way? But that was
Hmm.
also a part of black teenage life. That was part of my experience as a black teenager in Chicago. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know. I think we like to want to think of our babies as these angelic things and having like Judy Bloom type of Beverly Cleary type of
Yeah.
experiences.
Right.
And
Right.
that's just
Right.
not, I don't know that it was even true back then, but it's definitely not true
It
now.
wasn't. Mhm. Mm-mm. This is
You
not,
know.
like you said, it's not a an old story that's being regurgitated. It's an old story that has gotten worse over the years, to be quite honest. I think that with all of the truths that is coming, like, I mean, with the show itself, like, it's showing and depicting what is going on. That's just basically it. So to actually use a word like glamorization is kind
Hmm.
of, it's icky. It's really icky. That's not glamorous at all, at all. So yeah, I don't know. As I said, I don't think the Hollywood version would cut it, and it's best to dig deep and show us what you got. And Zendaya is clearly doing that in Euphoria. And I can't just watch that one episode. I'm sorry. I'm that chick that if you tell me about a show that's really good, I need to start from day one. So I'll start from day one and work my way up, and then I'll come back and cuss you in the next podcast.
Yeah, and I just tell people season two, they're definitely way more risk taking than they were, which is
Mm,
saying a lot
that's
because
awesome.
season one
Growth.
included, the suburban dad sleeping with the trans teen in a hotel room. So like,
I
like it
don't
wasn't
understand how you're
like,
saying it gets worse.
oh yeah, it definitely gets worse in season two.
My God.
So I think we've done with loving it. How about it's complicated? Our second segment of
Mm.
this and every show, stories that we have mixed feelings about, but we love certain aspects of it, but not all of it. What you got?
People might not like me for this one, but that's okay. That's all right. So I wanted to touch on the Kanye versus Kim in the media issue real quick. Now, don't even ask me about. I have mixed feelings. Yes, the love certain aspects of it. It's kind of. I don't think I do really, but I know a lot of people are Team Kanye still. That's on y'all. And I know some people are Team Kim as well. That's on y'all. That's There's nothing wrong with that. I've seen Kim being called everything underneath the table, and Kanye. A lot of people pledge allegiance to his stuff, even with all of the madness going on behind, you know, stuff that he's done and said, etc., etc. So, but I'm gonna take this whole entire argument away from all of that and flip the perspective a little bit, because what irks me with their whole entire nasty divorce process here is how Kanye is ready to eagerly talk about Kim and badmouth her in the media. I think I get from what he's doing that he's trying to gained sympathy from his fans and everybody and is noting everything that's going on, etc., etc. But I feel that when you start to do that, you're putting the kid's mother in a bad light. And even if it was from her end as well, that would be her putting Connie in a bad light. That would be disgusting. To me, I think as adults, we kind of tend to go overboard, especially when we're vexed. When we're vexed, that's it. There's no holds barred. Everybody says what they want, diarrhea of the mouth, and then after we kind of deal with the emotions and whatever comes with it. But I think that Of course, there are exceptions to the rule. If somebody is, crying out for help and or they're being abused, sure, project that into the media. Use the media as much as you can. There are certain, perspectives where, of course, I will kind of give a bly. But in this case, it's kind of tough for me because I feel like we need to step back a bit and remember that the kids are involved and it's messed up for them because all of this media stuff does not go away on the internet. The internet is going to hold on to that forever and a day. And these kids are going to grow up and these kids are going to see these things online and they're going to remember how daddy spoke about mommy. But I've been following this. So from my perspective, I have not seen Kim talk about Kanye at all, like in any kind of like nasty context, because she's more like, this is my private shit that's going on. I don't want to talk about that in the media and I want to protect my kids, and I totally respect her for that. Because if Kim was Kim, if Kim was like a royal bitch, she would really really put hang out Kanye to dry, and I'm sure she can, only because of his past behavior and stuff like that, right? Even if it's a bad mental situation that he's been in, some of the things that he's done can't be forgiven. And I'm sorry, you buy a house next door to me for certain reasons. I kind of maybe get, but at the same time, I'm like, that's creepy. You can't do that because yes, the kids are there. That's fine and good, but the mother of your child who you're divorcing lives in that house. She needs her privacy too. Right now, you're not thinking about yourself when you're not thinking about your kids. You're thinking about yourself. So there's so many like different facets to this. But for me, when it comes down to just putting all of your business, and it doesn't matter if it's Kanye or Joe Schmo next door, my thing is, don't put your business out there like that when things are getting messy. And when you have kids, it takes it up to a whole other level. Your kids are going to remember this. Your kids are going to see how you disrespected mommy in the news. They're going to see how you spoke about her, how you spoke about your kids themselves. Because from the time Kanye called out Kim's name about how they almost aborted North, I wiped my hands of that man. I was done. And nobody can tell me anything otherwise because I think that that's wrong. That's disgusting. North is at the age already where she can see all of this. How do you think she's going to feel? Like, it hurts me to my core every time he does something and he talks about her and he puts her name out there. I'd be like, take my name out of your mouth, please. If you want to bring the war to my door, bring it to my door, but don't put it on media. Don't do that. Don't do it. My point is that it's just not healthy calling out people like that. Like, don't do it. What's your take on the battle? Like, do you have you been privy to anything that's been going on?
I
It's
mean, we
kind of
can't
hard to
help but be
not
privy
see.
to
Yeah.
it. You can't not,
Right?
this would have never been a topic I'd have chosen because I try to avoid all things Kanye and Kardashians.
Yeah, I can't avoid
I
it.
I was never a fan of the show. I tried to watch a couple episodes just to see what was the big deal, and I didn't get it. I'm not one of these people who hates Kim Kardashian. There's a level of vitriol against Kim that I don't fully understand. I think I
I
might
just don't
would need to
understand.
be a black woman in order to fully understand it. To me, she's a beautiful woman who spent a lot of money on plastic surgery to look more black, and that's her prerogative. It's her body. It's her money. She and her family clearly love black men from the mama
Hmm.
down. Um,
Hmm.
I love black men too, so I don't really I don't really have an issue with that. I'm not one of these people who is anti-interracial relationship. I mean, I think that
Neither am I.
there have been issues that people have had, and there have been things that they've done throughout the career, like the cringy Pepsi commercial that happened in one of their family. Like there've been like
Yeah, of
cringy
course.
moments
Yeah, yeah.
throughout there. You know, cornrows and boxer braids and saying box braids and calling them something. Like silly shit that
Right.
is
Hmm.
cultural
Hmm.
appropriation, and I get the people's ire about those things, but they don't rise to the level of vitriol that I see people have against Kim. So for
Hmm.
me, I she's just not talented. I mean, and she's managed to make, her mother has made sure that all of those untalented people have managed to make a mint that their great, 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 great grandchildren can't even fuck up. Um,
Right?
and that's impressive. But other than that, I don't really know. These Armenian people, I don't care. Like, in terms of the Kanye thing, I think that I respected him as a producer for a really long time. I loved his music. I bought his albums. I've seen him in concert live, and when he was anti George W. Bush, when we were all loving Kanye, I was right there with him and for him.
Hmm.
And then when he became MAGA Kanye, I washed my hands of him. And so I really, really just disengaged from anything Kanye West. I'm aware of Donda, the album. I'm aware of the listening parties that, he charged people $60 and up for, but didn't actually really do anything concert oriented for. I'm aware
Hmm.
of him staying at the stadium in Atlanta. You can't, it's just the stories are in the ether. So even if you don't read it, you can't get away from it. And I haven't read like an in-depth article about any of the Kanye stuff with his kids. And yet I'm really aware of how much damage he's done by publicly disparaging Kim and as their mother.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
and I agree with you 100%. Demetria Lucas, who's a friend of the podcast and we're a friend of hers, spoke about him kind of weaponizing the black community when it suited him, right? Like, so you haven't been down
Hmm.
for black folks up till now. You've been talking trash
Right.
about black folks. You've been supporting white supremacists. You've even ran on a campaign that could have had
Hmm.
the disastrous results for the last presidential election had you just got enough votes to siphon off away from Joe Biden. You've not been a friend of black folks. So now that you need us again, you want to talk about how she not raising black children right. Like, leave us out of that conversation. You ain't gave a fuck about us up to now. I don't
Right.
care.
Exactly.
You
I'm not
haven't
your
been
pawn.
right. I mean, and you're taking it to the social media, Demetra talked about the fact, like, you have lawyers, sir. Like, go to your lawyers. Like, have a conversation with your lawyers. Leave us out of it. I don't
Right.
even understand why we're involved. Why do we know so much about her parenting, your parenting, who's doing what? And it's not like he hasn't moved on. He has a whole new girlfriend, right?
Thank
Like, it's not
you.
like he's sitting at
Right.
home pining over Kim. So this all just looks crazy. I mean, he needs to go get the mental health support he needs.
He done.
Um, I don't know about no
He's been
official
saying that for.
diagnoses. We'll say allegedly, for around his mental health, but the behavior looks crazy from the outside for us lay people. He sounds like you need some deep, deep, deep therapy for a really long time to deal with the wounds that you won't deal with. And if not for you, for your children's sake, like, none of this is a good look. It
Right.
doesn't make you look good. It actually makes her look better. And
Hmm.
you got people out here defending Kim Kardashian who don't want to defend Kim Kardashian, and and you're harming your children, not just now,
Yeah.
but into perpetuity. As you pointed out,
Hmm.
this will always be a question raised towards these kids in private and in public. And they shouldn't have to answer these questions. Divorce is
Right.
hard enough, messy enough, traumatic enough without a public spotlight and a dad talking shit.
Righto. Righto. I mean, how is that going to affect you? How is that going to affect your kid in the future? Like, you're not, again, he's just thinking, typical Kanye, right? He's thinking about himself. So, yeah, we'll leave that where that is. What do you have on deck, sir?
So we're really talking about messy, messy stuff this week. Um, so this last week has shown us leaked sex tapes by Nelly, Lil Fizz of B2K fame, rapper Isaiah Rashad, and Nigerian singer Oxlade, all within days of one another during the 2022 year of our Lord and Savior's Black History Month here in the United States.
I am done.
Now, for rapper Isaiah Rashad, who was outed as queer in behavior, if not identity, through his group sex tape, the response has been mostly supportive, given his recent struggles with chemical dependency and mental health, which he's been very public about on his music. And he's only recently kind of coming out of that. So, there was a lot of fear that this would put him back in a dark place, right? So I've been heartened by folks not wanting to pile on to Rashad's woes, potentially sending him over the edge, given how much suicide is a major issue for young black men and young black men who are queer in particular. Oxlade was clearly handling business and giving out
Uh-oh.
orgasms throughout his
Uh-oh.
tapes. So, he got mostly hosannas in these streets.
Okay.
Right? High
Okay.
fives.
Well.
Attaboys. However, the feedback for Nelly and Lil Fizz has sparked a major debate about body shaming men for their dick size, as many called out Nelly for having what appeared to be roughly 6 inches in standard issue meat, and Fizz for living up to his name, Lil Fizz, with an
Oh
upward
God.
curved mushroom headed dick that was more head than, say, neck and shoulders. While
Uh-uh.
those defending these celebrities from the jokes and memes were quick to say they were doing it in the name of body positivity, they often use language that disparage their detractors to talk about potential deep ocean pussies and prolapsed wall free cakes, which didn't exactly scream body positivity to me either. So we're gonna talk
Hmm.
about people not having walls, and that's body positive, right? Like it made them seem. Some of these folks just seem to be defensive, perhaps for personal reasons. Um, Now, to me, the Black Twitter
Hmm.
slam dance on Nelly felt a bit deserving because he allegedly leaked this himself by accident, right? Like, if you're gonna humble brag, have something more than mediocre or average to humble brag about. That's how I see it. Now, if he didn't leak it himself, my mistake, bruh. But if you leaking it yourself, at least have something that you about to be impressive. I mean, it wasn't
Right.
bad. It'll do the job, but it ain't like you're gonna be walking funny the next day.
Oh
In
shit.
the case of Lil Fizz, I think folks observing him on Love and Hip Hop, the TV show he's on VH1 or has been on VH1, also might
Yeah.
have felt he had some shade coming. Now, I don't know because I left the show shortly after his arrival. But are we at a point in our evolution as a society that jokes about male genitalia should be off limits? Should it matter if they are a celebrity? What if they're a braggart or an asshole needing to be taken down a peg or two? What do you say, AMC?
You really gonna leave this question in my hands? Like really, really?
I mean,
Let me tell you something. uh gosh, listen. Y'all need to be able to take jokes the same way you can give jokes, right? Okay? Because nobody's pausing when they're talking about, oh, her pussy's as big as the Grand Canyon. Oh my god. And like those jokes will come out 24/7 for the rest of your life, man. You if you got the stuff that just, can't do nothing, your name is smeared for life. And you're gonna walk with that joke for life. So as a dude, you're gonna have to man up and take your licks too. No pun intended. You're gonna have to take your licks. So, body shaming, if that's what you want to call it,
I
because
mean,
I think it. I mean, okay,
They
okay,
are
sure.
shaming parts of the people's body. If we were talking about, I'm a fat person. I am not comfortable with people. Now, for me personally, I didn't get past the point. Like you can't call me nothing that I have not called myself in my head. And like it. There's just nothing you can say to me about my size at this point of my life, especially almost 50 years old. That's gonna make me go run out into the street crying, right? you know,
Hmm.
and these are all. I mean, and to be fair, these are all very grown ass men. These are not teenagers.
Mhm.
These are not, even college age
Mhm.
people. These are super grown men, and all who have decided to film themselves. Like, there are, at least not that I'm aware of, there are no tapes of me for a very good reason. I don't want no tape of all this fat shaking up on some dude. I don't want to
Oh my
see it. I don't want other
god.
people to see it. I don't want to talk about it in these here streets. So I don't get filmed. Now, if somebody
This is
film me in
why
secret,
you tape it yourself.
I mean, which is the other part of this? Like, these men weren't secretly taped. They all allowed themselves to be taped and
Of course.
participated in the taping. So,
Mhm.
and maybe they thought it was going to be helpful in some way. I don't know. Because I don't know that in each of these instances, I mean, obviously with Rashad, he did not leak that himself. He would never have outed himself in this way. That's just not how you
Right,
come out
right.
of the closet. Um,
Mhm.
but for the others, like Nelly and Lil Fizz and Oxlade, I wouldn't be surprised if he had paid lighting and cameramen to
Oh,
handle his
shame.
pornographic. When I tell you, bro took care of business, bro took care of business. He was handling it.
Oh my
So,
god. I
people
didn't
was
even
running away
hear
from the
about that
meat.
one.
People was running away from the dick and all kind of stuff. So
Damn.
I'm just saying, like, but I mean, to say it's not body shaming, I think it might be a little disingenuous. It is body shaming. The question is
Okay.
whether or not it's a body shaming that we tolerate and allow, the same way we tolerate and
Yeah.
allow people to make black folks to make fun of white folks, right? Like, we tolerate and allow a lot of situations where it's okay for people who feel oppressed by a certain group to then make jokes of that group when they're on
Yeah.
the receiving end of something ridiculous or silly. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's I guess because those particular types of jokes are things that you've been hearing like time and time again from since you were younger. So it kind of feels like it's the norm. And I'm going to use the norm the same way I'm using he allegedly, accidentally leaked it. Okay? So I think, we're constantly using these jokes as maybe as a guide or a protector or a shield sometimes. And as I said, these things have started from since I won't say elementary for me, maybe the kids now, but these things have started from, high school on when it's like you start gossiping about what you're seeing and what you're doing and who's doing what. And of course, the first thing you ask is, oh, well, how big is his dick? Like, can he swing a dick? Like, those are the things that you ask. And then from the guy's perspective, I mean, I've got a lot of guy friends, y'all. So I've been the only chick in the room listening to these guys go off. And it's so is the pussy good? Are the walls tight? Are the so all of those questions pertain to one person at a time. So if it's like body shaming in a group or in an individual setting, it happens. And it happens like as I said, it's the norm. It's something that you kind of expect to during a conversation to have during a conversation, especially when you're with your girls or when you're with your boys, and that talk is loose as fuck. The talk is loose, so whatever comes out is gonna come out. So it's gonna be a whole lot of body shaming if that's what it's gonna come down to describe everything that's going on. And again, it's like the norm. So I don't. That's why I was kind of like body shaming, but then when you put it in that context, yeah, I guess it is body shaming. Just never put it in that perspective. It is body shaming. It's, when you're used to something and it's just normal to you, it kind of doesn't come off as something that is disrespectful or putting somebody in a negative light rather than a positive light. So,
I mean,
yeah.
and it's normal to make jokes about fat people, right? Like, so there's a lot of things that is normal to do that we should
But it's not
interrogate.
nice.
You're right, that we should interrogate. But that said, I mean, I think that this falls into that area, like, on the personal, I've been with men who were small, but they knew how to work what they had, or they had other talents that were orally centered that made it, like, for me, it's like, am I having a pleasurable experience with this person, or am I regretting it, the whole time, and wishing I
Hmm.
had a VA. And I've been with men who were
Shit.
not necessarily. I've been with men who were very large, and I've been in a relationship with men who are very large, and I've been in a relationship with men who were average, or even slightly below average, who figured out how to make it work. So,
Hmm.
I mean, also, I think some of this is also an age based discussion. When I was young, my eyes were bigger than my stomach. Wanted to challenge, I wanted to take on the world, I wanted to handle the double digits.
Mm,
At this age, maybe I just
mm-mm.
want to cuddle and watch Netflix, and we could do a little something, something, but I don't need it to be all huge like that. In fact, that just seems like a lot of work now and tiring.
It
Just
really
give me
is. It is.
I don't
Mm-mm.
have the energy
No.
that I had at
Mm-mm.
25 to be doing all of those pretzels type of situations. Like, baby, let's just, give me a little husband meat. We say, me and my friends, we joke about husband meat. Some right, not too
Husband meat, I love
small,
it.
not too
Oh my
small, not
god.
too large, right in between, right? Like very Goldilocks. We want the husband meat. That's where we're comfortable. It's something we don't have to ration the pussy. No, I'm joking. So yeah, I think. But what about you, AMC? Like, I'm putting myself out there. What about you? Your mama gonna be
I
listening to this.
Oh, my mama already knows, man. My mama knows how I flow. It's all good. Shout out to my mama, cause yes,
I mean, because we've all
but
heard the
no,
stories
she
about
knows the
West
deal.
Indian and Caribbean men.
And some of them are true. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I have been with really like large men where like Lord have mercy, I'm gonna die. And then I have been blessed in my sexual escapades where I have not had to deal with a short man. I haven't had to deal with any small ting and ting. So I've been good on that end. Thank you, dear Jesus.
Is
But
this what we thanking
yeah, I
Jesus
just
for?
yes, we are. I
This is
give
what we
thanks for
gonna
all the
pull out the
goodness. Thank you
rosary.
very much.
Oh my God. Okay.
You gotta give thanks for the peen. Come on now. Shucks. And when it's
Mm-mm-mm.
good. So you gotta give thanks. But yeah, I mean, it just woo, yeah. Nowadays, I'm too tired, man. It's just like you said. I'm getting old. I just I got to find another name for the cuddle peen, but I'm not doing all of that fun stuff. That I think I'm kind of good. I'm good. Got injuries for
Yeah.
that to prove, that I had a good time. I'm good. I'm good. So
Yeah, I mean,
even
and don't get
straight
me
up
wrong,
just
I still
loving,
enjoy
I'm good.
sex, but I don't, what they say, I don't want wreck my credit, make me stigmatized and stupid sex. I just need I just need we paying the mortgage or going to dinner sex.
Oh my god.
All right, folks, we have taken this into a totally different direction than
Okay.
our last three episodes on this one. So maybe we should talk about sex more often because that was fun. All
I'm
right, our
saying.
next section. So this one thing I wanted to throw out there. We still have a few, not a lot, but we have a few candles left over from our
Yes.
last episode, from our show sponsor, Ambiance LLC, a locally owned black business out of Jacksonville, Florida, that specializes in all natural handmade products, including whipped body butters, emulsified sugar scrubs, a full beard line created especially for men of color, and a vast selection of crystals and an array of hand poured candles that contain no parabens or carcinogens, right? So check out Ambiance LLC. They have a Facebook page. They're having an upcoming website launch. We'll let you know when that's up so you can place your orders directly.
Hmm.
And in the meantime, we have a couple of candles left over. Massage candles, luxurious, large, gorgeous. We did a display last time we met. Um,
Hmm.
And you can send us your mailing address to the Gibson Gazette at gmail.com. The Gibson Gazette at gmail.com. If you haven't figured out Gibson does not have a B in it by now, I don't know what to tell you.
You on your
But
own.
you're on your own. But definitely send us your mailing address. And if you're one of the first ones to give it to us, we can give you the last of our massage candles. All right. And
Yes. It's good for sexy
lastly,
time.
good for sexy time. And before we go to
That's
our
right.
just know for the week, a reminder, be sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share on whatever platform you're listening to or watching us on. All right.
Mhm.
Take us away, AMC, for just know.
Wow. Wow. So I'm going on the political end here. I just wanted to give you guys a little rundown on what's going on with the Trucker Freedom Convoy. So I'm sure you guys have heard a little tidbit about this going on here in Canada. And it's been interesting to watch unfold. So I'm going to give you the short form synopsis because I don't want to be here all night, y'all. All right. So the entire thing started because of the COVID vaccine mandates for truckers. The truckers didn't agree with their decisions made for Canadian, basically the Canadian truckers crossing into the U.S. border. So they decided to protest, and now it's turned into an ugly display of racism, harassment, and white supremacy in our nation's capital. So it's no longer really a protest; it has turned into just a huge mess, really. And it's been interesting to watch unfold. I'm just going to give you a few of the key points on the timeline. It started January 14th, where a GoFundMe fundraiser was started by organizers Tamara Lich and DJ Ditchter. And the latter has been known to spread misinformation left and right about vaccines and et cetera, et cetera. And actually, when he was told that there was, which I will get into after, there were Confederate flags on the premises of the protest, he said, I don't care. So there were a lot of far right extremists apparently that are behind the organization of this convoy. So on January 15th, the mandate came into force that all travelers had to be fully vaccinated before crossing the Canada US border. All drivers, truck drivers, sorry. So in the statement, the convoy organizers said that they came to the decision that the government has crossed the line with COVID-19 vaccine passport and vaccine mandates, and they announced that they had planned to travel to Ottawa. Um, January 22nd, the US began barring unvaccinated truck drivers from Canada and Mexico as the country's vaccine mandate came into effect. The Trucking Alliance condemned the planned protests and then started their way from British Columbia en route to Ottawa, and some convoys passed through Regina and Kenora. That's here in Canada, of course. I remember I'm talking from the Canadian perspective, just to remind you guys. January 25th, GoFundMe. So they ended up raising about a million, I think it was 1.8
Wow.
on GoFundMe, which blows my mind completely. But GoFundMe decided on January 25th that they were going to suspend the fundraiser for the first time to give organizers time to provide a plan on how they will decide to distribute the funds. Segments of the convoy started entering Ontario from the Manitoba border on January 26th. And then, oh yeah, so it was $1 million that they had raised. Excuse me. And then a convoy came into Toronto on January 27th. That was horrid. Like it was bad. There was a lot of traffic backed up, a lot of people downtown, Confederate flags. Um, there were a few other things too, but I really can't remember. But there was a lot of things going on. However, there were, I think, when because they were by Hospital Row downtown.
Hmm.
We have a street that basically has about maybe four or five hospitals or major hospitals, and
Okay.
so we call it Hospital Row, and they blocked Hospital Row. So imagine you have ambulances that are trying to come in with patients and whatnot.
Mm.
Luckily, it's on video that they were letting an ambulance through. I don't know what transpired throughout the day, etc. But I think they were more flexible and peaceful here than they were in Ottawa. In Ottawa, they just did not care. Um, so a convoy had passed through in Quebec on January 28th, made its way to Parliament Hill January 29th. So on January 29th was the main rally for the convoy. So now everyone descended upon Ottawa. The police estimated that approximately 3,000 trucks and up to 15,000 protesters took part. There was hateful anti Semitic imagery, including yellow stars, the Confederate flag, and swastikas that were there. Um, there was widespread condemnation behind the protesters' behaviors. They were harassing a homeless shelter in order to give them food. Food from a homeless shelter, people. They were dancing on the National War Memorial. How disrespectful is that? Putting flags and signs on a Terry Fox statue. I mean, I'm sure you guys know who Terry Fox is. Very prominent person here in Canada. If not, look him up. A public they were urinating on public national monuments. And now anything that y'all ex president has praise for is like garbage. It's trash. And so that day he decided to actually praise the convoy in Ottawa while addressing his supporters in Texas. So on January 31st, Parliament came back from the holidays. Ottawa paramedics confirmed that protesters had thrown rocks at an ambulance and used racial slurs against the paramedic, leading to a police escort being provided for all further calls for safety. So, can you imagine? Police now had to be pulled off of wherever they were in order to take care of things downtown on Parliament Hill. Then our prime minister finally, because they just came back from the holidays on the 31st, and he delivers a fiery speech talking about we're not intimidated. Mind you, we still haven't seen anything being done. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit. On for February 4th, President Donald Trump, excuse me, no, Trump, um,
Yes, let's not. Please,
let's
you're
not do
triggering
that.
people. You're triggering the
I
folks.
know. I'm triggering myself. So this idiot supported the trucker convoy and called our prime minister a far left lunatic. And GoFundMe decided to actually halt the no, they took down the fundraising page, saying that it violated its terms of service. And at the same time, the fundraiser, excuse me, had reached about $10 million. Peeps, $10 million. That is insane. So now on February 5th, of course, the US Republicans decided, okay, we're going to investigate GoFundMe for their decision to pull the plug on the fundraiser. This is what they're going to go and investigate. So there was still a lot of protests taking place in Quebec, Toronto, Vancouver, Halifax, and New Brunswick. I'm going to fast forward again, and as of now, actually, there's a class action lawsuit against the convoy by Ottawa residents because of the incessant honking and just the nastiness that's going on. So an injunction was actually granted to them for 10 days. So we're actually seeing more movement from the Ottawa citizens themselves than the government and police, and we're still trying to figure out what's going on. So as you can see, there's been a lot taking place over the period. I've jumped a lot at certain points, but we'll definitely drop links so that you'll be able to read a little bit more in depth about what's taking place up here. And many are asking how we got to this point. But I think what's really interesting to me is how Canada allowed a convoy of right winged white supremacists to literally take over our nation's capital. Like, literally. And we have yet to see any action. They're still there. They're still there. um I totally understand. I don't even know how to voice my disdain and just my it's just I don't get it. I totally understand. I'm all for protesting and having your voice heard, but because this really it just completely turned on its axis and has become such a disgusting and vile um, representation of another facet of Canada and its ugliness, and we're just like sitting here waiting to see how this is going to unfold, basically. So
Now,
yeah,
just to be clear, and also clear it up for our listeners,
uh huh.
are these truckers are U.S. truckers, or are these Canadian truckers who are right wing again?
Canadian, they're
Okay,
Canadian.
so
Yeah,
they're not even crazy Americans. This is
no
y'all,
sir.
your own crazy at home Canadian right wing folk.
You can
Wow.
take a sticker and slap a Canadian flag on y'all people, and this is what you get. It's a mirror. It's a mirror image. It's all of them all happy la la la, and we have ours. Y'all have yours. So, again, when it comes to speaking about how Canada is y'all white hope, now you see. You see that the
I
grass is
mean,
not greener on the other side, y'all.
you're
So
breaking hearts here, AMC. You know that's like the dream of progressives everywhere, to flee the United States for Canada, to live in the promised land of
nope.
Canada. But now you're saying there is no promised land up there.
There never was a promise land here, baby. Because even when my peoples came here, it was all about indentured servants. So no, it's never been a promised land. They keep on
Wow.
feeding us the hype and drinking the Kool Aid and doing all of that good stuff, right?
And the
So yeah,
president is not like, I mean, what is the president's stance on that? Your Canadian president stance on
our
this?
prime minister, our
Oh,
prime
prime minister,
minister
yeah.
has been giving all these lovely flowery speeches about how we're not intimidated and we don't appreciate how they've basically taken this and have turned it into something so so just completely wrong. And he's been going on, but I'm like, okay, it's one thing to deliver these beautiful lovely speeches, but what are you doing to protect your citizens? What are you doing, because this is not just it's not just the what do you call it, it's not just affecting parliament and Trudeau and the federal government. A lot of these policies too are from provincial government, and here each province has their own provincial government set up, and they make their own rules as they go. So we already have a few provinces that are going to be getting rid of the vaccination passport completely.
Wow.
So yeah, but we're not. I'm in Ontario. We're not at that stage yet. But then again, our premiere, don't get people start talking about that one. Ford is a whole other story. I mean, you guys have already been privy to his brother Doug when he was alive. And so he's the one that was the whole crack and cocaine thing and yada yada yada. So we
Yeah, I
have his
remember.
brother in office. Right? You can't forget. We have his brother in office now, and it's a hot mess. My vote didn't put him there, but it's a hot mess. So yeah, we're just itching to see where he's gonna go, and hopefully it's out of office when what do you call it thing elections come around. So
Gotcha.
yeah, it's really
Well,
really messy.
I wish my neighbors up north uh, lots of thoughts and prayers as y'all deal with your version of the Tea Party.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that y'all are going through that. It sounds terrible. Well, and my own. So I'm gonna try to see if I can do this quickly, so we can try to be under an hour and a half for this episode.
Hmm.
Um, The white backlash against black progress continues unabated. At a time when voting rights laws are regressing, affirmative action is on the cusp of being legally repealed by our SCOTUS, and CRT prohibitions are under consideration in 35 states. The following was reported this week by the LA Times, and so it will not be a shock. People who say they are less of a fan now than they were 5 years ago are more than twice as likely as everyone else to say the NFL, the National Football League, is doing too much to show respect for its black players. So, for those who may not understand what I just said, There are people who are saying that they are not supporting the NFL as much as they were 5 years ago because they are showing too much respect. This is what they agreed to for black players. About
Imagine.
one third of those surveyed nationwide said they are less of a fan now than they were 5 years ago, compared to about 1 in 8 who said they are bigger fans now. Now, these numbers aren't being driven by fans wanting Colin Kaepernick to get a chance to play ball again, or because this sport causes CTE, with long term brain damage for its gladiator players over time. No,
Mhm.
no, to the contrary. By contrast, another controversy involving the NFL, its response to the risk of long term brain injuries among players shows no such pattern, according to the LA Times. Overall, 62% of Americans say that the league has not done enough to respond to that risk, compared to 27% who says it has done enough. Like, they're almost 30% say they've done enough around CTE. I haven't seen the NFL do
I
anything around
haven't seen
CTE.
anything.
But okay. And 5% say they've done too much around CTE. I don't know how you can do too much around protecting players from brain damage, but okay.
Right.
Those numbers don't vary significantly between those who say they are lesser fans than those who do not. So this isn't about the CTE thing or the Colin Kaepernick thing. This is literally just about race. The
Hmm.
group who says they are now lesser fans is disproportionately, wait for it, people, Republicans. The poll found
Surprise, surprise.
so shocking. By comparison, only one quarter of Democrats and independents who lean Democratic said that. Republicans were also significantly more likely to express disapproval of the league's efforts to show respect to black players and to promote black and other minority candidates for coaching jobs, right? So they don't want them to coach. Among adults nationwide, 22% said they thought that the NFL was doing too much to show respect for black players. However, among Republicans and Republican leaning independents, that number shot up to 45%.
Hmm.
In contrast, only 5% of Democrats and Democratic leaning independents held that view. 57% of Democrats said the league wasn't doing enough to show respect for black players, a view that was expressed by only 9% of Republicans, right? So, what exactly is too much? Collins still can't play. The league still doesn't have equitable representation on its coaching staffs. The
Hmm.
league is spending some money with Jay-Z on black causes and Black Lives Matter, but that's about it. That doesn't impact game viewing, which is what we're talking about. And players
Hmm.
aren't even kneeling in BLM protests anymore like they were a year ago. So,
Right.
what exactly is the problem? What is the too much that they don't want to watch? How dare uppity Negroes demand their due, their respect, the respect of the league that they make billions of dollars for? How dare they
Hmm.
remind us that their allegiance is to their racial and ethnic communities over white comfort and sports fantasies? I mean, really, AMC, what is the too much? And how is there ever too much respect given anybody in this evil ass world?
When I read that story, I had to actually put it down and come back to it because I was like, these people are unbelievable. And what is too much respect? What is that? Who came up with that? I was a little flabbergasted, man. I sat back and I shook my head and I came back right back to do your job. You got your money. Shut up and do your job. That's basically what it came down to. And the NFL has always been that route, right? I think football used to be a huge thing for me. That was something I did with my dad. Um, my dad was nuts with the like balancing five TVs on top of each other before PIP, and like the remote here and pressing this to see the game at this and make sure it was all of that. I've been a Giants fan from since I can remember, but I have not watched football in a very long time, and part of it was because I missed my dad and I can't do it. My dad passed away, so I can't do it anymore. But the other half for me was Colin. So once that happened, I was like, "Oh, is that how y'all gonna play? I'm good." Haven't watched the game since. Have I watched a halftime show? I have. I'm not gonna lie. And then I turned the channel, and I plan to do just that this weekend too. I will watch that halftime show and change the channel. These cats don't care. They really don't care. They never did care. I I see. I was hoping for more from Jay Z. I've seen, yes, a few things going on behind the scenes with, helping with this, helping with that, but you're an NFL league, you are huge, and then you have this huge monster of an artist and philanthropist and businessman, and you're only like covering 2% of, you know any kind of philanthropy or anything you want to discuss when it comes to BLM, because everything is so muted, and you can't do this and you can't do that, and you got to watch your back to do this and whatever. And as they said, we there's too much, respect. So it what are you guys doing? What are they doing? They're not doing enough to even warrant that kind of statement. um it's perplexing, really. It's not, again, it's not something new. It's the same message that's been thrown at us for years. I think when Colin started kneeling, it made people actually raise an eyebrow and be like, huh, that makes sense, because we weren't really thinking about that. Even when I watched Colin's Black and White on Netflix, that was an eye opener too, because it's like, huh, okay, yeah, it was well done, y'all. Watch it if you haven't. But yeah, the NFL is just on some bullshit. Just to put it plain and simple, they are on some bullshit. And for the Republicans and this, it's too much respect. That in itself will definitely keep me in my seat to be watching, reruns of, I don't know, I Love Lucy, rather than sit down and watch an NFL game. And don't get me wrong, I liked Lucy, but
Right,
no,
right.
I'm not watching football anymore. I'm
Well,
good.
let me. So, a couple of things. One, I want to let folks know, if they weren't aware, Spike Lee is directing a documentary about Colin Kaepernick. So that's something that's in the works right now.
Didn't know that.
So there's some more things coming down the pike about Colin's story. And I'm gonna push back a little bit on the Jay Z piece. I feel like, he got, I think, something like $100 million out of the league towards these causes, towards BLM and other Black causes. I mean, which, quite frankly, the league wasn't going to do without his push. Him and Meek Mills have also done a lot around bail, and a lot of the activism around police reform. So, I
Hmm.
think ever since Harry Belafonte called out Beyonce and Jay Z, not that they had no philanthropy before, but they've definitely kicked up their public facing philanthropy a lot
Hmm.
after that call out from the elder. I mean, there's lots of things that I think that people can critique both of them on, but I think that philanthropy these days would be a harder sell than it would have been maybe 5 to 10 years ago. Um, but we'll see. I think that, as with Prince and Michael Jackson, a lot of people, we found out much more about their philanthropy after they died than we do when they're
Yeah, yeah.
alive.
Well, I
So,
wasn't like chopping Jay Z. I think that, no, I definitely agree with you on that point. I mean, where is the correlation between the NFL and what they had promised to do with Jay Z? So it's like you have this huge component. You have Jay. Jay is about his philanthropy, he's about his shit. So why
mhm.
aren't you doing more? Because you said this is what you were bringing Jay on to do. So why are we not seeing anything coming out from that agreement, or that, you know,
That's
joining
fair.
friendship? Yeah.
That's fair. And if folks want to push back on us about whether or not this is a racial issue, here's how that breakdown happened among white adults. Almost 30% said the NFL was doing too much. compared with 7% among Black adults, 19% among Latinos, and 11% among Asian Americans. Right? I still want to know who the 7% of Black folks were. We need to disinvite them from the cookout. Um,
The same
and
ones marching with Trump.
And we also need to like school. I mean, this 19% among Latinos who are now the majority minority in this country, we might need, or in the U.S. because I live in Mexico, we might also need to do some education with them because they lean in the wrong way. Um, so yeah, I mean, and that's my just know. So this is my just know. This is ridiculous. I still am trying to wrap my head around the idea of agreeing to a statement that says they're doing too much to respect Black players or too much to respect anybody. I mean, it's also giving jealousy, right? Like it's giving how dare these millionaires complain about anything, shut up and play ball.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's the world we live in. Our last segment, stories you tell. Um, and this is when we open it up to stories our audience is telling. Now y'all started giving us a lot of stuff, and then y'all kind of slowed up the spigot. We're gonna need y'all to send these stories in, your what the fuck stories, your funny stories, your salacious stories. They don't have to be real, they can be real or fake. Just let us know at the end of the story whether or not it's real or fake. And one page or less. It doesn't have to be long. Most of them have been about a paragraph to two paragraphs. So you don't have to, go long. But give us your stories. We want to tell your stories, child. We want to have a whole episode of just stories.
Oh boy.
So so yeah, this the foundation of the Gibson Gazette is story. So
Mhm.
do you want to read this week's story, or do you want me to read it?
I don't mind. I'll give it a whirl.
Go
I'll
ahead and
I'll, I'll go
let us
ahead.
know. Give us your best audible.
All right. So here we go, peeps. A good friend of mine in a warehouse and logistics. Sorry, huh? Oh, is I'm jumping
Now
out
you know you're
right
gonna
out of
have
the
to
gate.
fix the
I'm
people's
messing up.
stuff. Now you know you're
Let's.
gonna have to fix the people's grammar, and also we have to give these people a fake name. So what's the fake name that submitted the story?
That's right. Okay, so let's go with Jishan.
All right, Jashawn.
Jashan. So let's start this again. A good friend of mine is a warehouse and logistics consultant. Mid 30s, cishet male, HBCU alum, Chicago native, and plays the executive game. Well, yeah, he plays it well, but pro black militant in his private life. For the sake of the story, as I said, we'll call him Deshaun. So last year, Jay was contracted to restructure a warehouse purchased by a client somewhere in Middle America, requiring him to move to a podunk town for a year. Okay, so what? Please indulge me. What's a podunk town?
Oh, Podunk Town is like a trash town in the middle of nowhere,
Okay, I won't.
dead end
I just
town.
wanted to make sure that's what I thought, but I didn't want
Hmm.
to assume.
It's all good.
Okay. Lo and behold, his company rented a house for him right next to the original white trash MAGA couple. Oh, great! So we'll call them Bubba and Becky. Not their real names, though. I assure you, their real names are just as stereotypical on the nose. So there has been several run-ins between Jay and said couple, starting with an altercation due to the BLM sign and black, red, and green American flag that Jay installed on his front lawn. He was tired of looking at the Confederate and Trump flags that he watched waving over their front lawn for weeks. Since he's been there, the police have been called 7 times. 2 times, seven, drama. 2 times because of run ins between Jay and Bubba. The other five due to domestic altercations between the MAGA couple. The couple regularly fights, which provides Jay with entertainment on those lonely, boring nights in that podunk town where he has no friends.
Wow. Okay.
Oh God! Talk. Wow, if that's entertainment, I don't know, man. Over the past few months, Jay has endured the couple's racial slurs and racially motivated remarks. One evening last summer, Jay decided to sit in his backyard with a bottle of whiskey to soothe himself after a phone conversation with his ex girlfriend. An attempt to reconcile turned into a bad argument. While sipping his whiskey, he was greeted by Becky from the fence on her backyard. You know what I'm seeing?
Mm.
Boomerang, Eddie Murphy, Tisha Campbell over the fence. While sipping, while sipping his whiskey, he was greeted by Becky from from the fence line of her backyard. Apparently, she and Bubba just had a bad fight, and Bubba left the house for the evening. She then asked to come over and share in his session of somber drinking. We know where this is going. His loneliness got the best of him, and he decided to oblige her request. This evening of hurt feelings and whiskey culminated into awkward, unprotected sex between Becky and Jay, where she couldn't forego racial remarks even while being penetrated by a black man. Sweet meat Jesus.
Wow.
Woo!
And he
In
went
the
through with it
after,
though. But he went through
he
with it.
sure
That's the
did, but
shade. He went through with it.
that whiskey was talking. It was talking.
That self hate was talking. But go ahead.
In the aftermath of whiskey and bad decisions, you bet your bottom dollar, Becky continued to try and speak privately with Jay, to which he actively avoided her. Then the realization came when the couple had friends over, and Jay overheard the celebratory sounds of "Congratulations!" Becky was pregnant.
No, ma'am, Pam.
Jay has not spoken to Becky since their encounter, and though he isn't certain he is the father of the growing fetus, he's certain if he is, by the time the child is born, his tenure there will have ended months prior. He will no longer be a resident of Podunk. He's currently researching ways to make himself difficult to find when he leaves there. Poor thing.
Wow. So let's unpack this. So this always the ones that are pro black militant that's doing the backies. Now, I've already stated I'm not anti interracial relationship, but this is a Becky who's clearly racist. So, like, what are you
Right.
doing?
Mm.
She don't respect you. She think you trash. She think you're only good for sex. You just a giant dick as far as she's concerned. Like, ew.
Yuck. And I would love to be a fly on the wall to see Bubba's face in the delivery room once that black baby comes out.
It's giving very tragic mulatto story.
Right. Oh,
Like
boy.
that was always the telltale. What's the baby gonna be?
Uh-huh.
Um, what's the color? And but with black folks, we might come out real light, but we might darken within a few months after that. So you can't even trust what it looks like at birth.
True.
Um, yeah, I
So what do
but
you
here's the
think?
thing. Here's the thing that I always worry about too when I hear
Mm.
these stories about people who live next door to racists and you buy property, like, so, I'll ask you, is that something you would be investigating before you purchased your home? What's the neighborhood giving around race, or would you just not care? You like the house, this your dream house, you're going to buy the home, fuck the neighbors. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
That's tough. For me personally, I'm a researcher girl. I will knock on doors. I'm very yeah, I'm that chick. I'm very much, you know what? When I was younger, my mom used to always tell me, know who's living on top, on bottom, and beside you. Because even if the person says, good morning and fuck you, at least you know they're an asshole. If you knock on the door and you ask for sugar and they give it to you, you know they're good people. If the person doesn't want to come out of their house and always looks at you through the peephole, you know they're a serial killer. You know to stay away. You know what I mean? So you always know what you're dealing with. And I've always been that chick. I will go to the doors downstairs and knock and be like, "Hi, I just moved in. How are you? My name is Anne. Blah blah blah." So I know your face. Mostly because I need to protect my ass first, and then everything else is great. So thankful that I just moved in July. I'm in a gray area, and I know all of my neighbors all the way down the hall. I'm not playing. I am not playing.
Nah,
So
I'm the opposite of you. I don't
I
know
need
my
to know.
neighbor.
I
I don't
need to
know my
know.
neighbors here. I knew my next door neighbor directly to my left and a little
Mhm.
bit to my right. But that was, I mean, I lived in that house for like 7 years. I guess it's crazy. And I knew the one directly to my left because whenever I would be, my dog would use the backyard and his dog would use the backyard, and so we would see each other, on our
Mm,
landings and speak to each other. And then there was also an incident where he did something stupid that ended up having my dog escape the house, escape the backyard. But anyway, that's
oh,
another
geez.
story for another time. Yeah, I'm not one to make nice with my neighbors. Because I feel like if I am too friendly, then that gives them license to come knocking on my door
Oh,
and
no.
want to talk or borrow stuff, and I don't. I'm not like that. I'm not that. I'm not that neighbor. I don't do pop ups. I don't do pop ups with friends, so I'm definitely not doing pop ups with the neighbors.
No,
So
mm,
yeah, I mean, but I think that there would have been some signifiers. Now in this instance, he didn't buy it. I went back to the story. He rented. I mean, his company rented the
his
house
company
for
did.
him.
Right.
I still, the second I realized what that situation was giving, I'd have went to my company and saying, this isn't going to work out. I'm gonna have to move out. I don't know if y'all can give me a difference or whatever, but I just couldn't be living next to all of that. Now I
No.
realize our ancestors who were breaking racial barriers in these neighborhoods went through a whole lot more. God bless them. I'm built different. my house is sanctuary. My house is peace. I can't have all of that going on
I hear
next
that.
door. Causing drama and issues. The second I saw the Confederate flag outside, I'd have already known this is not people that I can
Yeah,
be
no.
around or talk to. And the second we start having altercations, it really because all I see is escalation from there.
Racial slurs?
Um,
Yeah, I'm not about that.
I mean,
No.
and no shade, we live in a time where people doing murder suicides left and right. I just don't be playing with folks. So now I guess we can ask the final question: is this
Mhm.
story true or false?
What do you think? Tell me.
Um, I think there are elements to the story that I've seen before that makes me believe it could be true.
Mhm.
What about you?
Um, I kind of agree because of the drama. Yeah, there's certain, but and especially now in this day and age with the BLM signs, and we've seen how that's already gone down. So this sounds very similar to a lot of different stories that we've heard already. Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised at all. So let me scroll down and see what the answer is. Y'all, we don't really know if it's like true or false until we kind of like, read it here for you. And the story is, it's false.
Well, whoever wrote it, thank you for giving us a juicy story that we could. I mean, because it did raise questions for us to consider.
Right.
So we love that kind of story, and it was a hot mess. And we love mess. We're like we're
As y'all can hear this entire
right.
podcast.
Yeah, we like mess. We love mess. So
Oh my god.
so remember, people, send us your stories. We'll read them on air on our podcast. And with that, we are at the end of our show. And
Yes.
thank you for visiting. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, share, comment. Comments help us rise to the top. We like to rise to the top. We were number one for like 2 or 3 weeks in a row, I think, on Podomatic's entertainment news, which I'm now like worried. I'm like, is there only like 10 entertainment news on Podomatic? Why do we always number one? Like at first it felt like a really big thing, but now I'm wondering if it's like five podcasts that are calling themselves entertainment news, and
Why
that's
are
why
you
we keep
like this?
that's why we're always number one.
Why? We're
Because
just that good, damn it.
I don't know our YouTube numbers don't look like that. But maybe our so this is also one more thing. So a lot of people have commented that they can't find us on Spotify. we had some technical issues with Spotify and ended up having to pull the our show from it, the platform. We were gonna resubmit it, but now we're kind of questioning because of what's going on with Spotify. We haven't made a decision yet, but for now, we're not on the Spotify platform. We are on Amazon, Apple, Google, Podomatic, Deezer, tons of other places you can find us other than Spotify. Also free, right? Like the Apple podcast is free. So
Right.
is Podomatic. So you don't have to pay to see, to listen to our show. At least not at this time. so,
You've been
so
warned.
you've been, hopefully you'll make us so successful that we have a Patreon situation.
That's
Um,
right.
but no, for now, folks, we're not on Spotify. We may return. We just, y'all have been paying attention to what's been happening with Joe Rogan and India Irie and all of that. And maybe we'll talk on our next show, or maybe we'll talk through our Twitter spaces about that issue and get your thoughts and feelings about it. I still haven't canceled my Spotify personal account.
Yeah, me
Um,
either.
but yeah,
I've
it's
been thinking
complicated
about it though.
situation. Yeah, I'm thinking
Mm.
about it as well. But I also am like, and I don't want us to go into too long on this. I'm also kind of like, it's not like Joe Rogan's the only racist podcast on these platforms. It's not like there aren't other platforms. If so, you switch to Google or you switch to Apple, there are other right wing, conservative, anti black, anti gay, anti women podcasts
Mm.
on those platforms. And so Joe Rogan isn't even the most egregious of those. He's just the one that got called out.
Right.
So, if it's in terms of like our resources supporting things that we don't want to support, I totally get that aspect of it. But our resources support